Good afternoon, dear journalists. First of all, I am really glad that today Minister Baerbock, Annalena, is visiting us here in Ukraine. I sincerely thank the minister right at the very beginning for this, as it marked her 9th visit since the war began. And these visits are not only to our capital, not only to Kyiv. Minister Baerbock knows very well what is happening in Ukraine, especially at the beginning of the war. She has been a tremendous support to us. I would like to thank you for your personal contribution to supporting Ukraine. Madam Minister, I am deeply grateful for your personal contribution, which has been truly significant. A tremendous amount has been accomplished, particularly in the areas of humanitarian assistance, energy support, and the successful unlocking of a substantial financial package, including the additional 3 billion. I know that this is your personal, very significant contribution to this. I want to thank you. To the Chancellor. And I would like to express my sincere gratitude to all the people of Germany for their unwavering, strong, and consistent support, which has been incredibly important and valuable for us. You are a very welcome guest in Ukraine. Always welcome. And I thank you for the new package. I forgot to mention, it is an important package, 130 million. And the issue is not only about the money, but about the fact that these are important things for us, both humanitarian assistance and support for our energy sector, reconstruction. So I also want to thank you for this package.
I sincerely thank you, Mr. President, for today's important meeting, for the invitation, and for your warm and thoughtful words of gratitude directed toward Germany and its people. The last 3 years have shown us how important the friendship between Germany and Ukraine is. That is precisely why it has always been a great importance for me to be here in person, as the courageous people of Ukraine continue to stand up, defend their homeland, and fight tirelessly for peace and stability across all of Europe. We always emphasize and firmly believe that the brave people of Ukraine are not only defending their own country but also standing as a shield for freedom, democracy, and lasting peace throughout the entire European continent. And when I come, I see this poster, "Be brave like Ukraine." And we witness this incredible courage in every corner of Ukraine, whether it is in the unwavering dedication of a train conductor carrying out their duty or in the resilience of children who, despite everything, simply want to play volleyball and enjoy their childhood. However, people are saying they want to stay in their cities, and we see this in the example of the military. We see this in your example, Mr. President. And now, as my visit takes place at the conclusion of my term, I would like to take this important opportunity to once again strongly emphasize that both the previous German government and the newly formed one remain unwavering in their firm commitment to not only continuing but also further enhancing their support for Ukraine, particularly in the military sphere, as well as in the crucial areas of energy security and humanitarian assistance. This will be a substantial package amounting to 7 billion euros, which is a significant contribution aimed at providing vital support. Today, we met with children who were abducted from Ukraine, and we see that Putin continues to bomb and attack. We see that he does not want peace. We see that Ukraine has agreed to a ceasefire, which is a crucial step forward, and we will continue to stand firmly by Ukraine. Our support remains unwavering because we firmly believe that only by strengthening Ukraine and ensuring its resilience can we pave the way for peace to take root in all regions and across every aspect of life. Therefore, I am very pleased that it is not only about the military package, but also about an additional 130 million euros. This is extra humanitarian aid. It will also provide crucial support to UNICEF's efforts in Ukraine, funding a variety of important projects, including those initiated by the Foundation of Annalena Zelenskyy, which focus on improving the lives of children and families affected by the ongoing crisis. This is a foundation like Save Ukraine, because we understand that this foundation will do everything possible to continue supporting Ukraine. You are fighting for peace in Europe. Ukraine belongs to the European Union. And no war in the world will ever destroy the friendship between Ukraine and Germany. Glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes.
Let's get started. Channel 24, Ukraine.
Yes, thank you very much. My greetings. Thank you for this opportunity. I have to ask, perhaps not directly about support, but about what President Donald Trump is currently saying, since for the second day in a row, he has claimed that Ukraine is trying to exchange NATO membership for a deal regarding minerals. Today Mr. Sibiga informed us that indeed a new agreement exists, and it is being analyzed and discussed with partners. So, perhaps the first part of this question is whether any elements of NATO membership were discussed when considering the new version of this document, and what discussions are currently taking place with partners. Perhaps they are talking about it. Also, at the same time, the second point is that these statements are being made against the backdrop of many European representatives visiting Ukraine right now, specifically to discuss deterrence forces that could later ensure peace on Ukrainian territory. So, is there any progress in this context here in Kyiv during these meetings? And, if you allow me, a question to Ms. Annalena as well. I heard that you are already on a farewell visit, as you mentioned. However, as you declare, the new German government will continue to support Ukraine, for which we are very grateful. And on this matter, last year, Friedrich Merz stated that Putin must be given strict boundaries, strict limits. And if he does not cease attacks on Ukrainian civilians within 24 hours, then Taurus missiles should be provided to stop this criminal logistics of destroying Ukrainian civilians. Then, in February this year, he said that Taurus could be provided in cooperation with Britain and France directly. So, what is the outlook on Taurus missiles today, and what can we understand at this moment about when Ukraine will receive them, and how? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. First of all, regarding this agreement, the new draft of this agreement that is currently being worked on by our Ukrainian and American teams. To be more precise, it is mainly the lawyers who are working on it right now. Details regarding the lawyers can be discussed with the team from our ministries, because these are the relevant legal firms, and there is a request about which of these firms will be working on it. There are several very strong firms, and a decision will be made in the coming days on which legal firm will work on it. As for this agreement and NATO, there is no NATO-related issue in this agreement. There never was. Regarding the European Union, are we linking this? Yes, we are linking it. Of course, when we talk about this agreement, it absolutely cannot be in conflict with our future membership in the European Union, not just as a mere attempt or a fleeting desire, but as a clear, concrete, and long-term goal that we are committed to achieving. This is extremely important. It cannot exist as a separate document, and nothing should contradict or be in opposition to this principle. At this point, I don't foresee any risks that need to be addressed at the moment, as we are still waiting for the lawyers to provide their final resolution. This is the current format and stage of the document as it stands, and any further developments will depend on their input. Regarding the contingent, we have a meeting scheduled for Friday with our military teams, along with representatives from the armed forces of several countries who are prepared to deploy a contingent in one way or another, whether in full force or in a more limited capacity. There is the land component, the air component, and the maritime presence. This meeting will take place, and it will be a deep, first in-depth meeting. There have been consultations, but this will be the first deep meeting. I believe that during this time, we will receive some important clarifications and additional details that will help us better understand the situation. Importantly, this meeting will be based on proposals prepared by the Ukrainian side. We made the final decision on this at the last summit in Paris.
Regarding the first part of your question, in relation to the agreement on minerals, we, as Europeans, have consistently stated that true and lasting peace in Europe cannot be achieved if it is done behind the backs of Europe and Ukraine, without their full involvement, engagement, and agreement in the process. We emphasize that Europeans must not only invest more in securing lasting peace within Europe but also actively advocate for it with greater determination and commitment, ensuring that it remains a top priority for the future. In reality, Ukraine's journey toward European Union membership is a crucial and integral part of the broader path to achieving lasting peace. This process not only strengthens the bonds between nations but also lays the foundation for stability, prosperity, and security across the entire European continent. The reforms that have taken place in Ukraine are impressive. The issues that are of paramount importance to us Europeans, such as the ongoing fight against corruption, the protection of judicial independence, and the preservation of media freedom, are not just necessary but fundamental to our shared values. We cannot afford to reduce or undermine any of these principles, as we are a union built on the foundations of freedom, democracy, and respect for human rights. Ukraine has already made significant strides in meeting these essential prerequisites, and as a result, we are now moving forward to open the first cluster of negotiations, fully aligned with the European Union's detailed recommendations. This marks a significant and decisive step forward in the process of Ukraine's integration into the European family. The European Union is not just a union of freedom and peace. It is also about the internal market and shared governance, shared economy. And those who are not part of this internal market, who are not included in this vital internal economic process, will inevitably find themselves excluded from the opportunities and progress of the future, unable to fully participate in the developments that will shape the coming decades. This, of course, must take place in full accordance with European law and the established European rules governing economic processes, ensuring that every step is aligned with the principles and standards that have been set within the Union. Therefore, we continue the process of accession. All the following steps must also be agreed upon and included. We are also discussing the process of reconstruction, and we have already allocated significant funds for this purpose. However, it is important to note that this reconstruction will only proceed if it is carried out within the framework of European law, ensuring that all actions align with the legal standards and principles upheld by the European Union. As for the Taurus missiles, as the minister who is now finishing my term, I cannot promise you anything right now. We have, of course, been discussing this issue consistently, and you have likely heard the statements made by the parties who are most likely to form the next German government and select their chancellor. We will have to wait and see how this unfolds, but we have already observed developments in the past month. Our efforts and attacks continue relentlessly, and we remain committed to our course of action. We simply cannot afford to wait idly while rockets continue to fall, causing widespread destruction to buildings, hospitals, power stations, and essential infrastructure. The damage being inflicted is devastating, and urgent action is required to address the ongoing crisis. I experienced this myself when I was in Kyiv, so I believe that long-range weapons are crucial in the cooperation between the Americans and the Europeans. And in the future, this should happen in this way. The likely future federal chancellor spoke about this. He mentioned that they have also discussed this with the Americans. So, we are currently in an intermediate phase. There are ongoing and important consultations taking place between France, the United Kingdom, Germany, and Ukraine, focused on military matters and strategies. These discussions are crucial for coordinating efforts and ensuring effective collaboration in addressing the challenges at hand.
Mr. President, we see in public opinion polls and when we talk to people that many Ukrainians do not trust Donald Trump. They don't see how he could help on the path to a just peace. You have said many times this year that perhaps there will be a just peace this year. How do you see this situation now? And Ms. Baerbock, many people also have significant doubts about Donald Trump, and one teacher in a school even remarked that the only guarantee she truly trusts is a bomb shelter, specifically one that is located 6 meters underground for maximum safety. This reflects the growing sense of insecurity and fear that many are experiencing. What can we rely on right now?
First of all, it is very important for us to maintain the alliance between Europe and the United States in supporting Ukraine. Today, that support is in place. You know that it was suspended. But it has been restored, and the exchange of intelligence is also very important to us, especially in the context of protecting against missile strikes. We are working on this. And so are European leaders. I fully agree with Ms. Baerbock, with the minister, because the French president, along with the leaders of the United Kingdom, Germany, Finland, and other countries, are in constant communication with the United States to ensure that this crucial alliance remains strong and intact, and that it is not allowed to break down under any circumstances. This coordination is essential for maintaining global stability and security. Or if anyone attempts to break it. These are crucial issues. Secondly, beyond the support provided today, you fully understand that this assistance is not only for Ukraine but also for the protection of security across all of Europe. However, above all, we, as Ukrainians, are deeply committed to seeing an end to this devastating war, and we strongly desire a just and lasting peace to be achieved as soon as possible, ensuring stability and security for future generations. And that is why we have always emphasized our readiness for an unconditional ceasefire. We, Ukraine, the Ukrainian team, demonstrated that clearly in Saudi Arabia, with no additional comments. There, it was also demonstrated that Putin does not want the war to end, which was presented by the Russian side. He does not want to end the war. However, the pressure coming from the United States, or the attempt to exert such pressure, as well as the second meeting held in Saudi Arabia, are significant factors that cannot be ignored in the current geopolitical landscape. These developments are shaping the direction of international relations and influencing the strategies of various nations involved. The US side promised Ukraine that it had agreed with the Russian side that there would be no strikes on energy infrastructure, and that there would be a ceasefire at sea. Additionally, the US side promised to work on returning Ukrainian children abducted by Russia, and to increase the number of exchanges of both prisoners of war and civilians. These are important decisions. It is crucial that we are talking about this and agreeing on it with the United States. However, if the US side is unable to achieve certain objectives or if Russia manages to deceive the United States in any way, there is a strong possibility that the US will escalate its sanctions pressure even further. This would be a clear response aimed at increasing the cost of Russia's actions and ensuring accountability for any attempts to undermine international efforts. I believe we have reached the point where sanctions pressure should be increased because I believe the Russians are violating what they promised the United States. At least what America publicly stated to us. I believe we are on the same page on this issue. And we very much hope that President Trump has all the necessary tools to intensify sanctions pressure on the Russian side. It is very important to monitor and enforce these agreements. At the moment, we believe there is no established high-level monitoring process in place. However, on our side, nearly every day, I have instructed our team to provide detailed information about the agreements related to strikes on energy infrastructure directly to the US. This is crucial to ensure transparency and maintain effective communication regarding these sensitive issues. Do not hit the energy sector with missiles. We can see that America is beginning to understand this. And we see that America is beginning to understand this a little. We would very much like this to be more than just communication between our sides, because on different levels, the US is passing us information. We see how the Russians are violating the agreements. For us, it is crucial that strong steps are taken. Words alone are not enough, with all due respect to our strategic partners. For us, sanctions are very important because what we agreed on with America, we are doing. What Russia agreed on with America, they are not doing and are constantly violating. Only we suffer. Today, Ukraine suffers. Ukrainian people suffer. That is why we are eagerly awaiting significant and concrete demonstrations of sanction-based actions, particularly from the US, as we believe that such measures are crucial in responding to the ongoing situation and holding accountable those who are undermining global stability and security. And then, I would like to conclude by reiterating what you began, emphasizing that if each side remains true to its commitments and continues to apply consistent pressure on Russia to fulfill those promises, there is a strong possibility that we will achieve a just and lasting peace within this year. This collective effort is essential to securing a peaceful and stable future for all.
We were almost together in Kharkiv back then, at the school that was being built. At that time, we said that we would not leave the children of Kharkiv alone, nor the children who had been abducted. Our humanitarian support, which unfortunately is often underreported and rarely discussed in Germany, also encompasses vital efforts such as the reconstruction of energy infrastructure, water supply systems, and heating systems. These are essential for ensuring the well-being and survival of the population, and it is crucial that we continue to highlight and address these critical needs. The fact that schools in Kharkiv now operate underground, and that we spoke about all the necessary actions back then, the need to evacuate within seconds, proves how serious the situation remains. And for the past 2 years, we as Germans have consistently said the same thing. Today, I had the opportunity to meet a young girl whom I had seen a year and a half ago, one of the children who had been freed from Russia. She had been kidnapped, and when we spoke, she asked me to make a promise to her. Please, never believe Putin's lies. Her words were filled with the pain of her experience, and they served as a powerful reminder of the importance of truth in the face of such adversity. And we will keep that promise. We will not believe Putin when he says he wants peace. Because the very next second, he launches another attack on Ukraine's energy infrastructure. This is precisely why we must work tirelessly to achieve peace. As Germany, and as a representative of Germany, I want to state clearly and unequivocally, there will be no lifting of sanctions without the establishment of real, lasting peace. This is a fundamental principle that we will stand by, ensuring that any move toward normalization is based on genuine and sustainable peace, not mere promises. When we talk about the meeting of foreign ministers, we emphasize that there should be no preconditions for a ceasefire. But we, as Europeans, must make it even clearer. There is no ceasefire. Not even as a topic for discussion. As Europeans, it is essential for us to strengthen the understanding that achieving peace in Ukraine is not just important for Ukraine itself, but it is directly linked to the security and stability of all of Europe. A peaceful and secure Ukraine is a critical component of ensuring the broader peace and safety of the entire European continent. This is in our direct and personal interest. We will not listen to Putin's imaginary peace proposals. For example, there were delegations, including representatives from African countries, who first visited Ukraine and then traveled to Russia. They made it clear that the first and foremost step toward achieving peace must be the return of the Ukrainian children who have been abducted. This act of restoring the rights and dignity of these innocent children is seen as a critical starting point in the broader process of reconciliation and peace. This was also discussed in Jeddah. So, we say, the children must be returned, there must be no attacks on energy facilities, no attacks on civilian infrastructure. That is why we will continue to support Ukraine, so that you can defend yourselves.
Thank you, Vitaly Yushchenko. I would like to ask the President, in your opinion, last night was the first time there were no drone attacks. What do you think this is related to? Could this indicate that the statements made by Donald Trump, the President of the United States, regarding sanctions against Russia are having an effect? Is the pressure starting to work on the Russians? Thank you.
Thank you very much for your question. Look, to be completely honest, I don't know the exact reasons why Shards and other long-range drones were not deployed or used last night. There may be a variety of factors at play, but at this point, the specific details surrounding this decision are not fully clear to me. It could be due to weather conditions. It could be because we provided information proving that the Russian claims about alleged Ukrainian violations targeting energy infrastructure are false, because in reality, it was the Russians who attacked our energy facilities. Maybe, after we passed on detailed information, the American side reached out to the Russians and had a discussion with them. I can't say for sure which of these reasons is the main one. There were FPV drone strikes, unfortunately. Yes, they were not long-range weapons, but they were impactful strikes in the Kherson region, cutting off 40,000 households from electricity. Of course, we restored power within a few hours. I want to thank our energy workers. They are working incredibly fast, even in places where their lives are at great risk, such as Kherson and the Kherson region. But you are right, there were no long-range strikes on energy infrastructure last night. We'll see what happens next. But there is no trust in the Russians.
Thank you. Spiegel, correct?
By the way, what Annalena mentioned regarding the return of children is incredibly important and cannot be overlooked. This issue is of paramount significance, and her words highlight the urgency and moral imperative of ensuring that those innocent lives are brought back safely. I would like to thank and emphasize this for this. This is a clear example of Russian deception. When they talk about energy infrastructure and claim that no one can monitor what Ukraine is supposedly violating. The example of children is a very clear example. If they truly wanted a ceasefire and an end to the war, what is stopping them? Without any monitoring. No monitoring is required for this. Without any conditions, just return the children. I believe this is a very telling example of whether they genuinely want to end the war or not.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, Spiegel. Tell me, please, do you expect that the new Chancellor of Germany will take steps to expedite the decision regarding the provision of Taurus missiles? Given the current situation, it would be interesting to know whether there is an expectation for faster action on this matter under the new leadership.
Did you ask about Taurus?
Do you anticipate that the new Chancellor of Germany will make a swift decision regarding Taurus?
We will be working on this, and we will have discussions regarding the details. Once the new Chancellor is elected and a new office is in place, I will be able to answer your question a bit later. But do you hope for this? Yes, of course. Of course. Even more than hope.
Do you expect this?
I can't even find the right word. More than hope. More than hope for Mars.
Thank you. Now, my first question is for the minister. In recent days, Western publications have reported that the Americans are allegedly discussing with the Russians the possibility of restoring the operation of Nord Stream, under different conditions, but still. Can you confirm or deny whether Germany is involved in these discussions? Have you been invited to participate? And what is Germany's official position today? Is the restoration of Nord Stream or Nord Stream 1 possible? Mr. President, a follow-up question for you. You mentioned that on Friday, there will be a first-of-its-kind military meeting between France and the UK. Regarding the military mandate, do you expect that during this meeting, discussions could take place about the mandate of the contingents currently under consideration? And do you see the possibility of these contingents being deployed here if the United States does not support the idea? In other words, how crucial is US support for our European partners in this matter? Thank you.
The wrong decision regarding Nord Stream 2 has been incredibly challenging for us as German society. It has caused significant internal debates and difficulties as we navigate the consequences of this choice and its impact on both our national interests and our relationships with other countries. Together with our Eastern partners, Ukrainians, Poles, we had warned that this pipeline was not an economic project but rather a preparation for further aggression. At that time, the perception in Germany was quite different, and as a result, we, as a society, had to pay a very high price for that decision. The consequences of that perception have had lasting effects, and we continue to feel the impact of those choices to this day. Once again, we found ourselves in a position of dependency on Russian gas and oil, a situation we had hoped to move beyond. Martin, however, used this pipeline as a tool against Germany, and by extension, against all of Europe, because he no longer wished to maintain it. This decision has had profound implications, as it has deepened our reliance on energy sources that we should have been moving away from. We paid billions of euros for this, and that is why it is now absolutely clear that this pipeline cannot be reactivated. This decision lies in Germany's hands. And the previous government was fully aligned with this stance. You can see that there is absolute consensus among the democratic parties on this matter. We know from various sources that there are speculations regarding this issue. However, Germany's key political figures are firmly committed to the clear and unwavering position that the economy and security of Europe are inseparably linked. They understand that the stability and prosperity of the continent depend on both economic cooperation and shared security, and this fundamental principle guides their approach to policy and international relations. This war has imposed a significant economic burden on us. And there is no doubt that such economic projects, which were once considered viable, will no longer be possible. These projects now pose a direct and serious threat to our national security, and we must prioritize our safety and stability above all else in the current geopolitical context. When we talk about sanctions, we are also referring to the sanctions imposed in the energy sector, such as those related to shadow oil. These measures are part of a broader strategy aimed at exerting pressure where it matters most, targeting critical areas that directly influence the ongoing situation. We simply cannot continue funding Russia's budget and fueling this war. Additionally, as I have already mentioned, we want to be independent of Russia. We know that we have also intercepted a vessel carrying oil, part of the so-called shadow fleet, that frequently attempts to circumvent sanctions. This illegal activity not only undermines our efforts but also contributes to environmental disasters, particularly in the Baltic Sea, where the consequences of such actions are devastating to both the ecosystem and regional stability. For the Baltic states, this situation also represents a serious threat to tourism, which is a vital part of their economies. The potential environmental damage, combined with the ongoing geopolitical tensions, creates a complex challenge. That is why we must remain extremely vigilant across all areas, recognizing that energy issues are not only about supply and demand, but are deeply intertwined with broader security concerns that affect the entire region.
This is not the first and certainly not the last meeting of our military regarding the continent. In fact, there have already been meetings in France, in the United Kingdom, both online and offline. Several such meetings have taken place. There is an in-depth discussion underway. I believe that based on our proposals, we will receive more concrete answers this Friday. From what I have seen today from our military, I think there will be several more meetings. The discussion is not only about the continent and presence but also about future forces. This is very important, how the future Ukrainian army will be structured as part of the security of the entire continent. These are critical matters. We have a vision, and the military has a vision. We had an extensive discussion about this today, 2 hours. I see a lot of work that has already been done. It is serious. As president, based on what I have seen today, I cannot say whether our partners will support it or not. It is too early to say, many meetings are still ahead. But what I have seen so far satisfies me. Regarding the American side, it is important to note that the United States has never explicitly stated or given any clear indication that it would deploy ground troops in Ukraine once this war comes to an end. While the US has provided significant support in various forms, including military aid, the issue of direct military involvement on the ground has not been part of the official discourse. However, this topic has never been removed from the agenda in our bilateral meetings. The US has always been skeptical about deploying its forces, not only in Ukraine but also in Europe in general. That discussion continues, but it is clear that everyone wants America to have a presence in Europe in one form or another. When it comes to Ukraine, this encompasses a wide range of support, including deep intelligence cooperation, data exchanges, satellite communication, and the sharing of new technologies. It also involves significant investments in our domestic production capabilities, as well as their active presence in the air. For instance, I personally had the opportunity to discuss air defense matters with President Trump, emphasizing the critical importance of these efforts in ensuring our security and defense capabilities. I spoke to him about this. I told him that, to me, this kind of presence is significant. Because if we can completely secure Ukraine's airspace with Patriot systems, that would be a major contribution from the United States to ensuring security. So we are considering various options, and once again, I want to emphasize, everyone, all of Europe, would like to see an American presence as well.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Madam Minister. Thank you, esteemed colleagues, for your questions. This press conference has now concluded.